YouTube. Nintendo has announced a Nintendo Switch 2 Direct for April 2nd, 2025, and I'm really sorry I just addressed you as YouTube, because this isn't 2013, this is 2025, and the Switch 2 is on its way. Now, I am doing what every other YouTuber who has even touched the gaming industry has been doing in the last week. I am giving you predictions or hopes for Nintendo Switch 2. Specifically the Direct that we're getting on Wednesday. Now, as you can see from this slide, there are a couple hints. I really couldn't think of a better format to use because I'm still in elementary school and I don't know about really anything else, so I'm going to be using a Google slide for this. Now, I don't think I have anything else to say besides that. Let's get started. Just need to wait for this. First is the obvious. This is stuff that was either very clearly hinted about in the announcement trailer or just, is usually what gets announced during directs like these. First is Mario Kart 9/10/11. Me personally, I think it's going to be 9, but obviously we had Home Circuit and we had Tour, so I really don't know what's happening anymore. Anyway, Mario Kart, it was shown in the announcement trailer. I'd be very surprised if they just didn't go deeper into it and just kind of left it hanging to dry. But, that is definitely something I could see Nintendo doing. Praying that they go over it, though, because, it looks interesting. Honestly, being completely honest, it looks a little underwhelming based off the trailer that was shown. Obviously, this is probably a very early stage. You know what? It might not even be a very early stage. Mario Kart 8 released 2013, and was it 14? I don't know. And it was, it's been since then. Obviously, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe happened, and the Booster Course Pass happened. But the amount of development time that's been allocated on this new Mario Kart has probably been at least a few years now. So I'd imagine this is pretty close to release. And that doesn't say much about the specs, but also it's like, Mario Kart 8, it's getting very close to a potential ceiling we have for the graphical capabilities of Mario Kart games. It being in the art style that Mario Kart is, you probably don't want to turn it very realistic. So I don't know. We'll definitely see more on that, I think. Next is the Nintendo mouse. Okay, yeah, they never said it was a mouse, but Nintendo's hinted at it very, very clearly, and everybody, including your mom, has been talking about how this is a mouse. And that wasn't meant to be a your mom joke. I just said it. Anyway, the Nintendo mouse, as I'm calling it, is what I call the Joy-Con mouse capability. I'm 99% sure it's happening. Frankly, I'd be like, I don't know, I'd be astonished if this little trailer hint wasn't actually a hint and it was just a cool little, cinematography thing they decided to do. But, if they don't go deeper into the Nintendo mouse, then I'd be surprised. And then the price, I think they'll probably announce the price. Now, this wasn't hinted based off the announcement, but I'd be pretty surprised if they didn't announce the price. I didn't say this earlier, but the trailer or the Direct is supposed to be 50 minutes, could be more than that. They might go over 50 minutes, and that'd probably include the price, to be honest. 50 minutes without including the price, that'd be kind of crazy. And I think what they're hoping this is the last they'll ever need to go over this system before releasing it. That's definitely what I'm hoping. There's also LeBron James, just in case you didn't see him or didn't, realize he was there. Obviously, he's in his Cavaliers uniform. I believe this is the 2016 to 2018 Cavs era. He looks a little older. Obviously, he's wearing the headband. Next. I don't I don't really know how this got here. Next is the probably battery life. hopefully 3 to 7 hours. That's what the Switch Lite is. Honestly, I don't see them doing 3 to 7 hours. That's just my hope, to be honest. I mean, if they got this target battery life to be the same as the Switch Lite's target battery life, then that would be, frankly, pretty incredible on Nintendo's part, and I would give them my money right away, but probably will be less, if I had to guess. And then a release date, I just put in quotes there what the confirmed release date will be. I'm proving it. And if that is the release date, then I will not have enough money to buy it. So, praying that's not the release date. Nintendo Switch 2 release date, window, size, games, price speculation, and what we know. Obviously, there's been a lot of articles like this. I was just kind of looking for a placeholder image. Frankly, these are pretty uninteresting and, frankly, pretty boring. Battery life and release date, if they go over it, it'll be good to know, but also won't be, blowing anybody's socks off. I think, frankly, a realistic release date would be from mid-May to late June. Honestly, I don't see it taking another 3 months after this direct, but it could happen. I think realistically mid-May to late June is what I am hoping. I mean, obviously I'd be hoping for mid to late April. That would be pretty incredible, but I think a mid-May to late June would be a good release date. And then LeBron on the Lakers. You thought I was going to say launch games. No, LeBron on the Lakers. Obviously looking kind of frustrated, maybe after a bad call. I don't know. LeBron's having he obviously has a lot of clips where he is arguing with the officials and maybe hasn't felt the strongest about what they said. Obviously looking pretty frustrated. He has the armband on the right arm, which is a common trait we've seen in games from LeBron. Classic Lakers home uniform. Personally, I like the away uniform better, but obviously the home's iconic. And then next. Oh yeah, launch games. Speaking of my ideal launch lineup, I want to stress very much before we go into this that at the bottom it says not realistic, because I do not expect this in a million years to be the launch lineup, but let me go through all of them. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is probably what I'd imagine is the most likely to be a Switch 2 launch title. They haven't specifically said it's, coming out on Switch 1, although it could be a Breath of the Wild situation where it does come out on Switch 1 and yet still comes out on Switch 2, but frankly, with the graphics they've shown, I don't expect this to be a Switch 1 title. I think they could release it on Switch 1 probably, but that would bog down the game a lot and make it, there would be a lot of technical limitations on that end. I think it's pretty obvious Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, especially with no concrete release date. With it being this year, I feel like you should have a concrete release date ready, and Nintendo would if it was another situation. I think, frankly, they're not trying to give a release date because they know this is going to be a launch title, and a lot of people are expecting it to be a launch title, and they don't want to announce the date of the Switch 2 coming out. I think it's pretty smart on their end. Now, Metroid Prime 4 as a system seller, I think I really can't predict it. We're gonna have to see. We're really just gonna have to see, how well the Switch 2 does at launch, and how Metroid Prime 4 does. I mean, obviously, it's not the blockbuster that a Breath of the Wild was for the Switch, or I don't know, another example, Mario 64 was for the Nintendo 64. It's really not a crazy blockbuster title, but it's definitely a title that a lot of people would be really interested in. And frankly, fans of other Nintendo series who aren't a fan of Metroid, it could get them into Metroid. I mean, I know I bought Metroid Prime 4 I bought Metroid Prime Remastered very recently because I want to get into the series to be ready for Metroid Prime 4. With that being said, I think it's pretty obvious it's going to be a launch lineup title, and I'd be pretty happy with it being one. And this is really where the not realistic part gets pretty obvious with a new 3D Mario. It's not happening. I'll say that right now. It's not happening. I just figured it's been 8 years since Odyssey. It's getting pretty close. We haven't seen one. We've obviously got a follow-up to Breath of the Wild. already on the Switch with Tears of the Kingdom. We haven't gotten any follow-ups to Odyssey. I think it would be like a realistic launch lineup title if they've said anything about it. To be honest, I think if it was like a Metroid Prime 4 situation where it was very vague on when it's coming out and it's very vague on what the hell it's going to be or what system it's going to be on, you know, if it was announced already, I think it'd be a pretty good argument for a launch lineup, but it would just be too soon. I don't think they're really going to get close to announcing a new 3D Mario. I think maybe at this Direct they could, but it wouldn't be a launch lineup title. You know, it wouldn't be a launch title. It would definitely be a Mario Odyssey situation where, you know, people know it's coming out on Switch 2, people know it's happening, but it's going to be a couple months into the launch for it to come out. I don't know. I think as a launch title, it would be that blockbuster. But frankly, I think Nintendo already knows what the blockbuster is going to be. It's going to be Metroid Prime 4. Next is Final Fantasy VII Remake. There were, I think, specifically, like, around mid-2024, a lot of rumors and supposed leaks. You can't see me right now. I'm doing finger quotes about Final Fantasy VII Remake and possibly Rebirth being able to run on Switch. I think, what was it? I don't want to get the source wrong. There was a source that said we'll just say E3 because I forget what it was. There was a behind the scenes of Final Fantasy VII Remake running on Switch 2. I think that would be very, very exciting. I would love to play Final Fantasy VII Remake portably. Just forget about the Steam Deck. I know Sony's licensing deal is you know, it's expired for the Final Fantasy VII Remake game. Same for Rebirth. I could have put Rebirth here, to be honest. I think Square Enix would definitely be open to doing a cloud version, because I don't think it'd be able to run on Switch 2. Even with this being a brand new system, if its specs really truly are, like, similar to PS4 Pro, I really don't think it'll be able to run on Switch 2. They definitely could make some tweaks, but then again, they could have made tweaks with Kingdom Hearts 3, or, you know, frankly, any other Kingdom Hearts game, and no, they just kept that as cloud version. I wouldn't be surprised. I think if Final Fantasy VII Remake does come to Switch, probably not as a launch title, but I would love it to be a launch title. I think Rebirth would come either in the form of a cloud version or sort of like a Witcher 3 port for Switch. You know, one of those like miracle ports that people are shocked works as well as it does, even if it doesn't work great. Elden Ring is interesting. Elden Ring, I also think it's like... I think Elden Ring's in a different scenario than Final Fantasy VII Remake would be in. I think Elden Ring's in a situation where I think it's more likely to happen than Final Fantasy VII Remake, but also I don't think it's going to be a launch title, and I don't think it's going to run as well as people think it's going to run. I don't think Elden Ring is going to be that PS5 experience you're expecting, or frankly, even like the PS4 experience. Honestly, I think Switch is different enough from PS4, where it's like, I don't think the Elden Ring would be comparable to how it ran on PS4, and that goes for any third-party game that wasn't on Switch, just because of its graphical limitations. I don't think it's going to be very similar to the PS4 or the Xbox One situation. Honestly, Elden Ring is just a game that I think if Nintendo doesn't try to vouch for, I'd be pretty surprised, especially with the original Dark Souls being on Switch. That being said, let's take a complete 180 into the Nintendo GameCube Switch Online. Now, whoever's graphic this is, I'm really sorry I took it. It's for a good purpose. It's fair use. But Nintendo Switch Online for GameCube has been one of those things, just one of those rumors and hints that with the last 2 generations we've been hoping for. It hasn't happened yet. Honestly, I'm crossing my fingers for Switch 2. I think it gets to a weird situation because Switch Online for Nintendo Entertainment System, SNES, and even to an extent Nintendo 64, you're not losing much by releasing those games on Switch Online, even with the expansion pass. With GameCube, those are just full experiences. Excuse my language. Those are just full freaking games, you know? those, like, Nintendo Switch Online, GameCube, I don't know how they do that, because those are not like the arcade or like the high score type games that you get on NES, and to an extent SNES and N64. Those are just full games, and releasing those through a streaming service like Switch Online, I think, is something Nintendo's kind of been weird with. Now, I think the conversation when it comes to Switch Online is, or GameCube Switch Online, is if Nintendo's planning to do any remakes or remasters for those games. And frankly, the last 2 generations, they have been planning to do those. You know, obviously I don't want to spoil much with the launch lineup, but they've done Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U, and they've done Metroid Prime Remastered, which is really just a remake, and Thousand Year Door remake on Switch. I think with Switch 2 being backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch, I really don't know where they stand on this. I think it's actually possibly the biggest mystery on this list about if it's coming to Switch 2, because we have no clue what's going on back there in the Nintendo office, and we have no clue if they're planning to keep the remakes or remasters going, or if, you know, the idea of backwards compatibility kind of disincentivizes making a GameCube Switch Online, because I'm sure they'll still sell those original Switch games probably years after the Switch comes out, or Switch 2 comes out. Gosh, I am having a tough time doing words here. I think it'd be best if I moved on from this, because I am clearly a mess right now. A 3D Donkey Kong is next. Sorry about that, like, 10-second pause. If I don't edit that out, I'm probably not gonna. A 3D Donkey Kong, or no, it's not even a 3D, it's just a Donkey Kong game. It's similar to Mario Kart 9, where I am shocked we haven't gotten one yet. Last one was Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, which I think, again, was 2014, if not 2013. And it's been a while since that. Obviously, Retro Studios has been hard at work on Metroid Prime 4, and that has been in development hell with like 4 hockey sticks. And Donkey Kong obviously hasn't gotten much of an opportunity to get developed, but I think we're kind of due for a Donkey Kong. I don't know if it's still going to be retro, but obviously with Donkey Kong Country remastered, I think a new Donkey Kong would be perfect to release on Switch 2. Again, maybe not a launch lineup title. I feel like all these first party launch lineups would already have been, you know, announced. I think Metroid Prime 4, I think it's going to be a Breath of the Wild situation where it's going to be Metroid Prime 4 and then more of a throwaway game, you know, like a 1-2 switch. God, I hope it's not another 1-2 switch. You know what they could call it 2-4 switch. No, would that be good? I mean, I'm just doubling because Switch. Yeah, I mean, it could have some mouse mini games. Ooh, you know what? Forget the new Donkey Kong. We don't need that. We need 2-4 Switch. I think a new Donkey Kong would be pretty cool, though. Don't really expect it to happen, but it's been a long time since a new Donkey Kong. Oh, yeah. And I keep saying Metroid Prime 4 is going to be, like, the one game. We'll get to that. You know what? Never mind. It's like 2 games down. Or 3 games, I guess, because this next entry is 2 games. This also kind of goes with GameCube Switch Online. I think if GameCube Switch Online came out, these 2 would also come with that. It's Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I'm frankly shocked these didn't re-release or get remade on Switch. And maybe that's why they didn't. Maybe it's because, you know, Nintendo's planning a remake for these 2. I don't think Wind Waker really needs a remake. I honestly think that game is going to age well for the next, like, 10 years. Twilight Princess could definitely use one, though. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it is classic early to mid-2000s, you know, all that fog, all that dark and gritty. I think it definitely could be worked on. I just feel like these 2 need to be re-released. I mean, the fact that the most modern way you can play these two games is on Wii U is just like such a travesty. You know, most major Wii U games got re-released. You know, Mario Sunshine got re-released, even, I mean, if you count that. Metroid Prime got remade. Pikmin 1+2, they got re-released. I mean, Mario Tennis got re-released on Wii, you know. The fact that these two, the most recent re-release, has been Wii U, is kind of crazy to me. Just the fact that these two were huge games on GameCube. You know, they're the two Zelda GameCube games. Point is, please re-release these, Nintendo. You know, frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo did a Zelda All-Stars. I mean, I know it's obviously a Mario thing to do the All-Stars. They probably wouldn't call it Zelda All-Stars. But, like, I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't done a Zelda collection. I mean, frankly, they're just not big into collections, I don't think. The most recent collections they've done are, 3D All-Stars and Pikmin 1+2. Like, I don't think they're big into collections, but they're definitely not against them. And I think doing a Zelda collection would genuinely be great. That one you could definitely price for a full $70. Hopefully they don't, but I think I've said all I need to say about these two. Just please re-release them. I don't care if they're remade, remastered, whatever. Just please re-release them. Next is Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a similar thing to Elden Ring and to an extent Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's just like, this is a port that so many people wished was on Switch. Obviously, the original Red Dead Redemption was remastered on Switch. I mean, I guess you probably couldn't call it a remaster. It was ported to Switch, obviously. Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, deserves the same treatment, but I think they just didn't really feel like optimizing it this time around. To be honest, it probably could have been optimized. I think it was a similar situation to GTA 5, although, I mean, Red Dead would have had a tougher time because it didn't release on those, on the PS3 and Xbox 360. But it's a similar situation to GTA 5, where I feel like they would have been open to having it. It's just, it took too much effort to tweak and to port, and I just don't think it's that much of a Nintendo game. But honestly, I think with all that effort that it takes, kind of being, pushed out of the way, the only thing stopping Rockstar and Nintendo from getting this thing on the system would be the fact that it's not really for the Nintendo target audience, but, I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate it. Next is Mario Kart 9, 10, 11. I mean, what do I even have to say? Like, it's gonna happen. I don't know if it's gonna be a launch title. I'm sure it's gonna be a launch title. I keep saying Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is gonna be, the biggest launch title. It's gonna be the blockbuster, but maybe not. Maybe it is similar to, like, I don't know, a Wii Sports Twilight Princess situation. I'm trying to just think through the whole, launch lineups of the last Nintendo systems. Maybe it will be similar to a Twilight Princess Wii Sports situation where it's like one is for like the hardcore fans, that's Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and then one is just for the people who, just want to have fun, and that's Mario Kart 9, 10, 11. I think that'd be pretty smart for release strategy. And those are probably going to be the two launch titles that, if all else fails, we will see those too, if we don't get fucking Donkey Kong 64. And then finally, Animal Crossing. Yeah, I hope so. It's been, 5 years since Animal Crossing came out. I mean, I think it's like 5 years on the dot, add or take away 7 days. Yeah, I mean, New Horizons is, it was obviously one of the biggest games on Switch. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think we're going to get it first year. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it first 2 years of the system. I mean, obviously, the developers, they kept up with New Horizons as much as they could, releasing free updates or the Happy Home Designer DLC. That was what it was called, right? I think that's the 3DS one too. We'll see. I don't think it's happening, but there isn't a conversation. Next, Next. Well, if you've been astute and watching the video, you probably know what this one is. We'll just see real quickly. Frankly, incredible. Honestly. Oh yeah. So that's not it's not part of the video, is it? Now, here is the hope. This is the penultimate prediction. Obviously at the bottom I say again not realistic, but I think this list of really needy requests for Nintendo. I think this is more realistic than the launch lineup. 1080 60 FPS standard for most games. I don't think this is that much to ask. I think a lot of people are kind of looking to 4K 60 FPS. Frankly, I wouldn't be that angry if 1080 was just the standard. I think 60 FPS should be the standard by now, though. Even if it's not 4K, I'd be fine with 1080 60. Now, if it's 1080 30, then that would be pretty disappointing, but I'm not really looking to 4K yet. Custom themes. This was a big thing on 3DS. I know my 3DS is loaded up with custom themes that I've gotten throughout the years. My personal favorite being the Mario Odyssey theme that I think was given away by my Nintendo for a little bit there. That just has the full rendition of Jump Up Superstar, and I loved that one. Obviously, custom themes, I think Nintendo was planning it on the Switch too, but I think, or on the original Switch, you have the two themes, but I think eventually they just kind of gave it up, eventually they just said, you know what, we don't need custom themes for our console to succeed. I think our funds and our time would be allocated better, would be used better if allocated towards games. I think they're planning custom themes, but never really got to it. And I think this is just what I hope. Custom themes on Switch 2, it's not a need, Obviously, this is like touch-ups. This is like if all else is done, if all else is great, then maybe custom themes, But I would be pretty excited about it. Nintendo Music support. Again, this is also like if an all else fails type of thing. If all else is good. I'm just kind of shocked it's not on the original Switch. Like, I'm just kind of surprised that Nintendo Music isn't natively supported on Switch. I mean, it's Nintendo Music. It's your music platform. I get Spotify not being on there, but Nintendo Music not being on there is kind of crazy. It's only a mobile app, and I think that's really dumb. It's also not a good app. I tried it like a week ago because I remembered it existed. It's like Nintendo Alarmo. I forgot about it, and now I'm remembering it again. Holy shit, I should get Nintendo Alarmo. I got the app like a week ago. It has maybe like, I don't want to say a number too low. It has like 20 plus hours of songs, And when I say 20 plus, I mean like plus minus 3 hours, It has like 25 hours max of songs, and I know that contradicts what I just said. I don't care. It's a bad app. Frankly, I think they need to get more songs, but first and foremost, they just need to get it on the Switch. $350 price. This is a weird situation. I was gonna mention it earlier. I'm kind of surprised I didn't, but if they had a $350 price tag, I don't think that would be crazy, but I also think they wouldn't want to have the same price as the Switch OLED. I'd imagine they're going to sell the Switch OLED for the, another couple of years maybe, and I'd also imagine that they're not going to want it to be the same price as the Switch 2. I think they're going to want to get more money out of the Switch 2, and I think they're going to want to make the Switch, OLED seem like a better deal. That being said, that kind of brings something bad for the Switch 2, because I also don't think $50 is enough of a price gap to make it so people who are thinking of getting a system would spring for the Switch OLED. I think a $450 price, as much as I hate to say it, is probably going to be realistic here, but a $350 price is what I am hoping and what I am praying, and if it's not $350, then that stinks. And then 3-hour battery minimum. Yeah, I already said, I'm hoping its battery life is at least like efficient enough. I know that was a big issue with people when the original Switch came out, and yet, how much did that affect sales? I don't think they're gonna have a 3-hour battery minimum, but they should if they really cared about the consumer. And just forget that person who they're taking a third of their paycheck from, because he modded 3DS for a living. Native online support with no app. Okay, I'm mainly talking about voice chat and regular chat. I get Nintendo cares about keeping kids safe, but I think there's a point where that lies in the parents or the guardians less than the company. I think it becomes a point where it's like, okay, if you're just neglecting this whole group of people who would be on Switch much more than, they're on Xbox or PlayStation, just so you can do like a parent's job for them, it's kind of crazy. I think not having voice chat natively and not having just, regular game chat is really dumb. I think, it should have been on Switch. Hoping it's on Switch too, but honestly, knowing Nintendo, they're not gonna have that. And frankly, they're probably not going to be affected that much by it. A smooth eShop, possibly with music. It's not that much to ask, okay? There's a lot of reasons why the eShop is so horrible. It's getting worse and worse every day. The more games that are released, the more hentai games that are released, the slower it gets. Because, holy shit, there's so much crap. Yeah, I think making it, so it's like sort of like the Wii U 3DS eShop, where it's smooth, where it has music, where it feels like you're genuinely shopping, I think would aid it so much. It's so slow right now, and that's because Nintendo's moderation of games is just not there. And frankly, I don't want to take that away from developers, small developers, but I also think like, probably like half of the eShop library doesn't need to be there. I really am not sure how to circumvent this issue. I think, obviously, higher processing power, and more RAM will definitely help with making this eShop smoother. But I think just the having no moderation in the eShop is the biggest issue. With that being said, oh my gosh, hopefully we have analog triggers. I think it's such a dumb ask. It's such a unneeded thing. It's something that PlayStation did and thought it was really cool, and now nobody could care less, I kind of like analog triggers. I kind of like what, I'll just throw a game out there, Astrobot did with them. I kind of like what games do with analog triggers on PlayStation, and I think it's an unneeded thing. It definitely is not needed. Don't do this, Nintendo. But if I could hope, in a perfect world, I think analog triggers would be pretty great. And I still want it to be an indie machine. This is kind of self-explanatory. Nintendo Switch, one of the best parts of it is that it gives small developers a chance to get their game out there, get their story out there, and have it become like one of the mainstream Switch games. I think Celeste, Hollow Knight, what are some other ones? Stardew Valley. A lot of those games wouldn't have gotten so popular if it wasn't for Nintendo allowing them to be at the forefront of their store and the forefront of their system. I mean, all the indie worlds, like all the indie worlds, they're great. I think the fact that the Switch is also kind of underpowered allowed for a lot of indies to thrive on there, because a lot of indies aren't, that groundbreaking graphical masterpiece that a lot of AAA games are. And I think it allows them to succeed a lot more, having sort of their own market on Switch. So I think it would just make sense, at the end of the day, to keep it an indie machine. And then a pack-in game, I think, would be pretty cool. Maybe similar to Astro's Playroom. Not something necessarily big. It doesn't have to be a Wii Sports. I'm just saying, it's always nice for people who can afford the system but maybe not afford games with it to have something to do for a little bit, And I think that is it. I don't think that's it. I know that's it. Let me go to the next slide. Next is your predictions. So I made a poll like maybe 2 hours ago about hey, what do you think the Switch 2 Direct is gonna have? And honestly, I probably should have waited longer, but I just wanted to get this video out and done. I was excited to start the video. So yeah, your predictions. Still feel free to comment on the poll though, or comment on the post, not poll. Anyway, thanks for watching. I am hard at work on the next video. I am just starting with the editing process. Here is a little sneak peek. There's Ratatouille on Wii, Spider-Man on PS4, and Bass Pro Shops, The Strike on Wii. Which I actually found out that it came out on Switch as well, and comes with a little fishing pole attachment, so I might actually get that. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this amalgamation of actual predictions and glorious King highlights. LeBron James. He is the greatest of all time. He somehow manages to be a great scorer, a clutch player, a great teammate, and a great dad. Also, cooks tacos like, somebody who genuinely does that for a living and not basketball. He's just the greatest of all time. He's also a great GM. He somehow convinced the Lakers to not only get Luka Doncic, which I don't know how much he actually had to do with that, but also to draft the next greatest of all time, Bronny James, who dropped 17 against the Bucks a couple weeks ago.